It started with a single line on the website of the French Development Agency, AFD. No fanfare, no joint communiqué, just a terse update buried in the project section. All new commitments under the 2024-2028 bilateral framework with the Republic of Niger are suspended pending review. No explanation, no timeline. In Niamey, the reaction was instantaneous but disciplined. Phones lit up across the Ministry of Finance and the Prime Minister's office at 3 a.m. local time. Everyone recognized the pattern immediately. This was not a budget hiccup. It was a chokehold. 72 hours earlier, Paris had quietly transmitted a technical memorandum demanding that Niger grant immediate and unrestricted access to the national mining cadastre database, including real-time export logs for uranium, gold, and lithium concessions. The request was framed as a routine transparency measure linked to existing loans. But the annexes told a different story. Full API-level integration, daily data polls, and the right for French auditors to flag anomalous transactions directly to the Ministry of Mines without Nigerian countersignature. Niamey refused. The response was one paragraph, delivered through the embassy. The Republic of Niger exercises full and exclusive sovereignty over its mineral information systems. That was all. France answered with the suspension. Not a formal rupture of diplomatic relations, not a sanction voted in Parliament, just an administrative freeze on future disbursements, worth 680 million euros over 4 years. In European capitals, the move barely registered. A footnote in a quarterly report. In the Sahel, it landed like a detonation. The confrontation did not begin with the AFD notice. It began with a policy France had perfected over decades and quietly sharpened after the 2021 to 2023 Sahel withdrawals. France had lost its military bases in Mali, Burkina Faso, and finally Niger. Direct presence was gone. What remained was financial leverage, bilateral debt, budget support, and the soft architecture of partnership. When military coercion became impossible, administrative coercion took its place. The first demand arrived disguised as cooperation, a joint working group on responsible mining governance. Niger agreed, on condition that data remained sovereign and that audits respected national law. France then escalated. The group needed live access to the cadastre to verify alignment with international standards. Niger's Ministry of Mines ran the numbers. The cadastre was not just a registration. It contained concession coordinates, production forecasts, transport routes, tax receipts, everything a foreign power needed to map strategic reserves and, if it chose, to pressure specific companies or officials. Niamey refused the live feed clause. France labeled the refusal lack of trust and suspended the working group. Then came the memorandum. Then came the freeze. Inside Niamey, the scale of the reaction felt disproportionate. The disputed database access would not resolve France's security concerns in the region. It would not bring back the expelled troops from Barkhane. Yet Paris was willing to jeopardize an entire multi-year financial framework over it. That mismatch was the first clue. 10 days after the suspension, a document leaked, not from Niger, but from a Brussels-based NGO that still received French funding. The paper, prepared for the Croix d'Orsay Africa Directorate, carried the innocuous title, Post-Withdrawal Influence Pathways in the Central Sahel. One section was highlighted by the leaker. Countries that restrict legacy access to strategic datasets after the termination of military cooperation require calibrated disincentives. Budget support suspension, combined with selective project freezes, maintains pressure while preserving the appearance of partnership. Niger was cited explicitly as priority case 1. The memo rewrote the crisis in Miami's eyes. The cadastre was not a technical footnote. It was the new battlefield. France no longer needed bases when it could achieve persistent surveillance through data. Accept the API integration, and Paris would regain in real time what it had lost in physical presence. Niger's refusal had interrupted that transition. The financial freeze was simply the lowest cost way to restart it. In the Palais Présidentiel, the core circle gathered: finance, mines, digital sovereignty, and the small unit that had spent 2 years migrating every strategic database to national servers. The briefing lasted 4 hours. Analysts confirmed that none of the anomalies France had claimed to have detected actually existed. The demands were prospective, not remedial. They mapped the likely sequence if Niger yielded. First the cadastre, then the customs clearance platform, then the Treasury's single account, each step framed as anti-corruption or climate transparency. The conclusion was unanimous. Concession here would mean perpetual concession. The government chose a response that looked boring and proved devastating: transparency without submission. Niger published the full text of the French memorandum, the refusal note, and a 22-page technical annex demonstrating that its cadastre already exceeded OECD transparency standards without foreign backdoors. The documents were released simultaneously in French and English, sent to every African Union ambassador, and uploaded to the presidency website with open licenses. Within 48 hours, the narrative flipped. Le Monde ran the headline, "Paris demande un accès illimité aux données minières du Niger." Jeune Afrique asked whether France was trying to recolonize through spreadsheets. Paris issued no denial. The Croix d'Orsay spoke of misunderstandings and ongoing dialogue. Behind the scenes, French diplomats scrambled to reassure other Sahel capitals that the demands were country-specific. Few believed them. Regional support materialized quickly and quietly. Mali offered to host a Sahelian working group on digital sovereignty. Burkina Faso's Minister of Mines publicly praised Niger's exemplary firmness. Even Chad, still hosting French troops, asked for a copy of Niger's cadastre security architecture for study. The freeze, intended to isolate Niamey, had instead catalyzed coordination. 3 weeks later, the AFD website updated again. The suspension was temporarily lifted pending further technical discussions. No apology, no admission. Just a retreat dressed as procedure. Niger did not celebrate. Officials understood the war had not ended, only the skirmish. The cadastre remained closed to foreign APIs. The financial pipeline reopened, on Niger's terms. For France, the episode revealed a shrinking margin. The old reflex, punish non-compliance with money, still worked on smaller, more dependent states. Against a government that had already expelled foreign troops and nationalized its data, it backfired. For Niger, the outcome was not triumph, but precedent. A mid-sized Sahel nation had proved that financial leverage could be defied when the demand itself was exposed as excessive. The weapon still existed, but its credibility had cracked. In the end, the fight was never about a database or a suspended loan tranche. It was about who gets to decide what belongs inside a nation's black box and who does not. Niger drew the line. France blinked first. And across the region, other governments quietly began migrating their own servers.